All right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Takeover Tuesday, a 2 p.m. show, 3 p.m. game, Creator Incubator. I'd like to welcome all of y'all coming out on this exquisite day, this majestic afternoon. Very exciting. Very exciting. Got a lot of stuff going on today. We have on the line my co-host, Mr. Brandon Buchanan. He's going to be joining us today and telling us all about the great things going on over at Mosaic and all of his other affiliated adventures. And I think that we've got the great legendary Talania floating around out there in the space, the internet space somewhere, doing something. And we always love it when Talania's around. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get to the meat of it. What exactly are we going to be talking about today? What is the name of the game? What is the plan? What is the strategy? All right. That is what's up.
Hi.
Well, hello.
This is kind of a back to basics episode for us, I think.
I think you're right. A little bit of that. Yeah. Back to basics. I'm pretty okay with basics. I'm a basic kind of guy.
Both of us have had it looks like a mess, but we've actually gotten a lot done in terms of moving the mixed deity entity forward.
Like I agree. It's all that behind the scenes work, a little bit of the time.
And just like whenever if you're making something new, your house gets a little messy. I mean, we talked about this in our pre-production meeting today, but we have this for-profit entity, the Media Cafe, and the non-profit entity of Mixed Deity. And it's hard to run both of those in legally distinct ways at the same time.
Yeah, well,
I
think
it's tough to sometimes just doing the service that's the service to the community and doing the work that grows the community. Sometimes it's hard to do both of those at once. And people probably feel that way about how to balance their own business and work life.
I think that's fair to say. But thematically, it's kind of an answer to a perpetual issue that we deal with in society, where all of these institutions that are supposed to be community-based institutions, they are for the welfare of humanity, have been turned into these for-profit, vortexes. Everything from the education system to the justice system to the healthcare system to the friggin' prison system. These are all for-profit entities that are supposed to exist for the benefit of the community, of the society, of humanity. That's why they're there. It's their function, but they've been turned into this other thing. So the idea is that, what are the institutions that are left just to exist for the sake of people, If you can't go to the doctor without being sold a bunch of shit you don't actually need to buy, if you can't go to the justice system without being basically forced to buy a bunch of justice, if you can't if you can't be rehabilitated in the prison system because there's no money in rehabilitation, there's just more money and more prisoners. It's a quota-based system. I mean, it's just where do the humans go? What's left, So that's what we're here to answer. That's what we're here to do, and that's why.
Rock, do you know the concept of a third space?
Yeah, I love third space.
Let's talk about what is a third space. Are we one, and to what degree are we one? Because I'm gonna ask you some questions I want to really put an extended spotlight on, almost as if we were going through the incubator ourselves. And the thing I want to question in on is, what is this idea similar to and how is it different? But I want to do a deep dive into that. So talk to me about third spaces.
All right, well, here's the thing about space in general. We are in a new social and technological situation that we've never been in before. Third spaces have been, the physical space that you go to, but the thing is, there's also a digital space now. And so the idea that you need not only a third space physically, but you need a third space digitally. But I think what you really need is a space that can cross over to both, to where you can go there either physically or virtually and have a similar experience. And on a day where you don't really feel like leaving the house, you can just hop on virtually. But on a day where you really want to go connect with people, you can connect with that same community in a physical third space. But if you don't want to fight traffic, or you don't want to deal with the weather, or maybe you're just tight on funds that week, you don't have to be completely cut out. So, that the third space is absolutely imperative. It's absolutely imperative. But the thing is that space isn't just physical space anymore. You have to account for the digital space. And the problem with digital space is that it generally cuts you off from physical space. So I think there's a lot of third spaces digitally. I think the whole gaming community is a huge third space, but it's so virtual. There's very little physical connectivity that you can get through that. So, and that's just one example, but
and that whole process of gameplay is so corporatized now. I mean, if you think of even games right now, they are more like casino mechanics. They are more built to zoom your attention in on every microcosm of the numbers on the screen.
Exactly. And then we're right back to where we started, where everything has been co-opted for money interests. And it's like the thing about when people set the conflict against, the community, people versus profit. Well, it's kind of a dumb question, because like profit and people are synonymous with each other. Like you as a as a naturalist, or as a community member, or as a person who's church going, or you're just a nonprofit enthusiast, whatever. If you're a very anti-capitalist type mindset, if somebody has that, the reality is there's no way to be anti-capitalist without also being hypocritical, because the second that you have to wait for gas because nobody shipped gas across the world to put in your car, or you want a bag of chips that you can't buy because capitalism didn't provide them for you. Reality is that this computer I'm talking on, the phone, everything in your life is a byproduct of capitalism. It's incredibly good at what it does. It's incredibly good at what it does. The problem is that it's only supposed to go so far. Like the people in your life shouldn't be a byproduct of capitalism. Your health shouldn't be a byproduct of capitalism. Your mindset, your spirituality shouldn't be a byproduct of capitalism. It just needs to be put in balance in some kind of way, whether that's a third space, or whether that's a way of integrating, or whatever. But I think that people who have the mindset that it's a versus us versus them, people versus product, no, they just need to be put in balance. When is something about getting a profit, and when is something about the people? It just needs to be balanced. And so that's kind of what we're trying to do.
Rock, there are definitely people who would say, more than the result of a system, they would emphasize that the iPhone that's in your hand comes from a human being's work. Someone had to solder the little nuggets together. Somebody had to glue the glass on. There's and those relationships, you would acknowledge, are not always fairly coerced.
I'm not sure what you're saying.
You don't think that the people who put the iPhones together are doing it and they're happy?
Oh, God, no. God, no. But you're talking about economics, though.
No, I'm talking more about morality. I mean, when you're saying, you are accepting the system, you have a phone. But even if you're accepting the system enough to have a phone, you're not accepting the system enough to say that the labor that made the phone was fairly coerced.
But just because you're hungry and you need to eat doesn't mean you have to like the way the meal was cooked.
You don't need an iPhone.
Depends on what you want to do with your life.
I mean, but as long as you're acknowledging that your freedom of choice in what you want to do with your life is coming at the expense of someone else that was unfairly coerced.
Well, that's the nature of that's economics, right? Like I've had many shitty ass jobs in my life.
That's not a nature of science. That's also the nature of there's human beings that make those choices in our economy for
Yeah,
things to flow that way. I mean, iPhones weren't necessary to do business 20 years ago.
well, that was 20 years ago.
Yeah, there were political and economic changes that happened.
Are we still talking about third spaces?
Yeah, of course. I mean, all right, let's compare you economically to other third spaces that are in town. Let's compare you. Why would a person be a member of mixed deity and not our buddies at Switch Yards? We've both been to Switch Yards.
So it boils down to community. Why would you go to this church versus that church? It's because it makes more sense to you, or doesn't make more sense to you. You know, mixed deity has its own ethos, its own idea of what it is and what it's trying to be. If that makes sense to you, then that's why you would be involved. And if Switchyards has its own thing, and if what it's doing makes more sense to you, then you'd go over there. It's just like you buy this sandwich versus that sandwich. It's just people relate to it or they don't.
From a mechanical standpoint, you have a lot of features that are different than any other third space in town. Not just the fact that there's both digital and physical, but also the calendar, or just to talk more about what you're similar to. How are
Okay.
you different than other third space
Well,
or other competitors?
yeah. So, here's the thing about the thing about for-profit entities is it is good business to figure out the thing that you do that makes the most money, and then mostly do just that thing. And the more you try to be everything to everyone, the harder it is to be something great for anyone. And so most business models demand them to have a narrow focus. All right, and that's fine for what that is or what that serves, right? But the issue that I run into is that I'm very much a mindset of inclusion, and I'm very much a mindset of I don't, want to I don't want to have the people that I know, that I'm working on creative projects with, have absolutely nothing to do with the people that are my neighbors, which have absolutely nothing to do with the people that I work with, which have absolutely nothing to do with the people that I party with, which have absolutely nothing to do with the people that I, deal with creative projects with. It's like if I go to Switchyards, I'm going to do the thing that happens at Switchyards, right? And then I'm going to go home. I'm going to do the thing that happens at home, and so on and so forth. I really, really think that a genuine community is not a whole bunch of people that are the same. It's a whole bunch of people that are different, that you know for different reasons, you deal with for different reasons, and the diversity is where the strength is in a community. In a business, no. In a business, you want everybody to be the same. You want your customers to be the same. You want your product to be the same. That's good business, but it's not good community. A community that's just full of all the same type of people is just a whole bunch of redundancy. Like it's an echo chamber. You're just going to hear the same thing, have the same agreements, think the same thing, talk the same thing. It's a cult. It's not a community. A community is a whole ecosystem of people. Like if you took a metaphor of like a community in the mountains, a little mountain town, 500 people, and they're mostly cut off from the rest of the world. They just have maybe one trip a week. Somebody comes and brings supplies, or they ship things out, or they do mail runs, or whatever. Some little town far away from everything. It has to be mostly self, balanced. We'll say Crested Butte. There's an actual town, Crested Butte, Colorado. All right. So there's a few hundred people that live in this town. They have their industry, they have their local bars, they have, a little movie theater, a little school, all the different things, right? But in order for that community to work, they need, kind of at least a few people in each sector, right? it has to be the whole community. You got families, you got kids, you got elders, you got mentors and understudies. You have people who are the tech people. You have people who are the social people. People who are the just all different types of people. You have a problem. Oh, this hitch broke on my trailer. Like, yeah, well, that's Bob. Bob does the metal shop in town. Go talk to him because he solves that type of problem. Oh, I have a problem with my house burned down. Oh, okay, well, Joe and Tammy run the fire department, and they can put the fire out at your house. And Ted and Bonnie, Jane McGuffin they're the carpenters, and they can build you a new house. So, like, a community, a real community, is it's the entirety of a microcosm of society. You need a little bit of everything. And so when we talk about these third spaces, right, I'm talking about a third space that's by a for-profit company that's just trying to be this one thing. Oh, yeah, Switchyard. It's a co-working space for entrepreneurs, blah, blah, blah. You go there with your laptop and you pay money to sit in a room with your laptop to whatever, and maybe there's coffee or something. I don't know. I haven't been. But it's not anything else but that. If you're not doing that thing, then you have no reason to be there. So my idea of a third space is a space that is inclusive for what could be an entire community, right? There is I don't want to say infinite number of reasons to be there, but if we imagined ourselves as a little mountain town, there should be a reason to intersect for every kind of person. So that's why when I'm trying to be, that's why we're doing it as a nonprofit, because as a nonprofit, that makes sense because it's community based and you need that diversity. But as a for-profit, you're supposed to do this other thing. So my solution to that is to create a nonprofit that is designed for the community and develops the community and develops the ecosystem of collaboration and connection and communion, and then attach that nonprofit to some for-profits that are very good at their one specific task, right? So the long vision for Mixed Deity is that it is essentially a hub of all different types of people doing all different types of things for all different types of reasons. And it's connected with relationships and partnerships to for-profit entities that will, donate surpluses, that will collaborate, and that will work on a sort of a parallel ethical backbone to just be good at what they do. And if you are in the community and you're like, oh, I needed this, I needed that, and then the other thing, I'm like, oh, okay, well, we have 3 for-profits that we have relationships with that we can recommend that will treat you well.
Rob, yeah, you've got it. I love it. Listen, I want to come back, and because we've hit this question of what it's similar to and how it's different in slow motion, which is great. I want to hit another question in slow motion too, which is the question of who is this for and how does it help? I want to hear you talk about who are the kinds of people who you envision being members of Mixed Deity. What are your common values, interests, needs? What are the things that unite these people across all of their memberships, interests, desires? Who is this? Who are we talking to?
I think that it's in the title. The name is Mixed Deity. It's the shortest synonyms for combined creator. Mix is a synonym for combined. Deity is a synonym for creator. So Mixed Deity is the very most basic central theme is that if we can just connect people together in meaningful ways, all kinds of people together in meaningful ways, that problems that our society, our world, our souls, our minds, our bodies are facing can have a better chance of being finding solutions. That we can have a better chance of having richer, more dynamic experiences, better relationships with ourselves and with other people, better exchange of wisdom and knowledge to grow and understand our experience in this world. A better chance to improve our economies, a better chance to improve our understanding, our romances, hell, anything. It's community, right? So it's for anybody who wants to be included or involved in a space or in a culture of creativity. And that is the sort of the central point, is that it's combined creators, right? Mixed deity. So when I say creator, though, I really just mean anybody who has any idea about anything that could exist, that doesn't already exist, that they think they would like to, take some kind of effort into seeing if it's possible.
Is it fair to call this a social club?
I think that that would be very reductive, but it wouldn't be wrong. Yeah, I think that you have to socialize and that's where these connections are happening, is through that communication. Without the
It's
social
very.
element of it, what are we?
I would say that it's very and I say this coming from Mosaic Atlanta, where it's so important that we do accessibility. Sometimes for us things move slower because we're thinking about how can we translate this into Spanish, or how can we make sure that someone who's disabled can watch this. Like the fact that someone who can't physically come to a meeting, they definitely can log on and watch on YouTube. I know
And
you
participate.
like that's actually a big important factor for a lot of people.
And participate. We have technology now that we didn't have 10 or 20 years ago, and the creative use and implication of that, a lot of the technology is used to divide us, unfortunately. Anti-social media, but if repurposed, it can be a great way to connect us. It doesn't have to be a choice of, oh, do I go out and see my friends, or do I stay home and dick around on the computer, or watch streams, or it can be both. You don't have to say goodbye to your digital friends to go hang out with your real friends in physical life, and you don't have to say goodbye to your physical friends to hang out with them digitally. But find me a space where those two worlds coexist. I don't know of any. So that's kind of the vision for the Media Cafe.
What are let's talk more about that coexistence. What are the real world experiences that you can offer? And let's say that I live in Midtown, and I moved here 2 years ago, and I've got a job here, and obviously I watch TV, I kind of talk on Twitter sometimes. Twitter's kind of dead lately, but I have a Twitter account. What am I getting tangibly that I might not find anywhere else but with this kind of community?
It's that we use the technology as a bridge to recreate what a normal structured community engagement would look like. So, for example, we have a Tuesday. We used to have a meeting, a Tuesday Creators Club meeting. We used to call it. It's changed now, but the idea was that you'd come to the space, and we'd all sit in a circle, and we'd have a little meeting, and it was very intimate, and it was a nice way to connect. But sometimes people couldn't come because of whatever, life happens, and they couldn't physically get out there, or they were coming from very far away, I would find out, so they couldn't come that often. And so, from week to week, something great would happen the previous week. And then a week later, we'd have another meeting. But some of the people that came to the second meeting never met any of the people at the first meeting. And the people at the first meeting didn't come back the next week to meet the people at the second meeting. And those two people actually should have met, because they would have been the perfect connection for each other. But they didn't happen to come to the same meeting on the same day. So the time is this issue where if you can't cross this is the power of on demand, right? So, back in the day, you had to watch the show when it was aired. If you missed it at 2 p.m. or whatever time the show aired, it was done. You just had to hope you catch it on a rerun. But nowadays, it's all on demand, but it's also live, right? So the idea that you can connect on the span of time but also in the span of space. So if we have a platform where a person can have the option to connect when it's happening, or to follow up with it later when it's convenient, or if they want to be there physically, or if they're traveling around the world at the time and they still want to connect, but they're somewhere else. So space and time and distance are all things that this developing platform can allow to happen. So now in that same scenario where a person missed each other from the week before, well, it's all been recorded, so they could go back that week and if I say, oh, you should have met so and so, they were here a week ago, you should check them out, blah blah blah, they can actually do that. They can just go click on the video from the week before and witness the entire experience, right? Whether they were there or not. Or if the other issue is the same, it's like, oh well, next week so and so is going to be here and we're going to talk about such and such, and their answer is like, oh well, I'm going to be out of town that week. I'm like, okay, well, the same meeting is also virtual, so you don't have to miss the meeting even though you're not physically there. So the idea is it's a third space that crosses over the expanse of time. It's not restricted by time, and it's not restricted by three-dimensional space. You can have more or less the same engagement level and the same experience whether you're doing something from a week ago, whether you're doing it physically in person, or whether you're doing it from the other side of the planet. And it's all the same common ethos, and it's the same basic functioning workflow, right? And we already beta tested this technology, and it works, and actually works really well. But nobody has really experienced it yet. So that's the idea, is that all these misconnections don't have to be misconnections. That's the point. Because
all of this is great. Tell me about some specific communities that you've engaged with in the past. Because I know it's great to talk about community as a holistic thing or as a community of communities. But let's just say that we're coming to experience some of your work for the first time, and we want to learn what can we trust in terms of your ability to meet some specific communities. So what are some subcultures that you've interacted with, had some success with? Just tell us the vibe. What is going on?
Yeah, a community of communities. I think that really makes a lot of sense, because some communities really do have a more of a specific focus of why, most groups grouped together because they had a similar problem that they all wanted to solve together, and it made sense to do that. So if you're dealing with something that you need to explore with people that are more experts in that particular vein, then yeah, you would want to go to a community that's more of that type of community, more of a network of similar veins. So like, for example, the Georgia Production Partnership, they do a lot of stuff with film industry in Georgia. We have done partnerships with them where they would give us tickets to their events, and we would bring Mixed Deity members to kind of cross-pollinate with what they had going on and learn about what's going on in that industry, and making those connections. And then also the Little 5 Points Community Center, that's a community space that we help facilitate different connection of events and things of that nature. There's what were those guys? The Kick the Ladder crew. Kick the Ladder is a group of people that they're very much a community that focuses on what they do, and we were able to connect with them and cross-pollinate with them for a while. And so, but the idea is that maybe somebody from the Kick the Ladder community and maybe somebody from the Georgia Production Partnership community actually would be a great connection to each other, but they don't know each other exists because they're just in their respective communities. But if they're also in the Mixed Deity community, then Mixed Deity becomes kind of a doorway to all these other communities, and they're all handpicked and they're all vetted and verified and have real established connections in those communities. So yeah, a community of communities is the key, because in this world today, you can be very diversely connected to very many different things. I'm a this, that, and the other thing, but you're not going to find a community that is this, that, the other thing. But through Mixed Deity, you could actually.
So I want to hear. We actually got a comment from X the Flare who wants to hear from us in terms of bringing back the meetups. And we've been talking about doing that like right now, right?
Yeah, so that is happening right now. The meetups. Are you? I guess he's talking about the Creators Club meetup. Yeah. So what we have been since the church, we realized how dependent we were on the physical space, and when we lost the space, the community was basically scattered to the wind. And so as we're rebuilding it and bringing it back, the idea is that we want to have a place that can make use of these spaces, but isn't dependent on them in a way that if a space falls through or changes, that our whole community is shot to shit. So that's where the digital element comes in. That's where the platform comes in. That's where the interactivity comes in online. And
that
from there,
basically means for us, we needed the attention grabbing of a Twitch stream. We needed the intake and personality building of a church. We needed the events calendar of a community activist organization. We basically, like, in order to deliver our conversations in a way that we could at least have trust in, we really had to and Rock, I guess you'll agree with this, had to do a lot of development work. And I
yeah,
mean, people can see over the course of many episodes of us putting this thing together.
yeah. And honestly, it's been really the quiet before the storm or whatnot. But what has been getting accomplished behind the scenes has been, it's something, I'm the most proud of that of anything I've ever done in my life. And we haven't really presented it or dropped it yet. We haven't done a grand opening of the Media Cafe. We haven't done a launch of the platform officially, because once we go live, I really, really, really want to make sure that we don't have any false starts or any hiccups or anything like that. So we're already running the Media Cafe now. We're already running the platform now, but it's being polished and workshopped and beta tested. But the
Well,
idea is that we'll be able to do this as a drop-in anywhere in the country or in the world as an interconnected space. Maybe you come to the mixed deity community because you want to know more about how to get connected to Japan. Cool. Well, we've got 3 sub communities in Japan that are working on various different things, and you can connect through the same platform from Atlanta that you do in Japan. But more importantly, it's all organically vetted, you know, creatives and businesses and partnerships. All of these things are like handpicked for that quality that that you just don't get. I don't know. Most people probably don't know this, but mixed deity was sort of born underneath during the mixed deity community was born during the pandemic, and because of it, we could not advertise. So we've never advertised anything. We've never taken out an ad in any way, shape, or form for mixed deity. It's always just been word of mouth. Somebody tells somebody, tells somebody, tells somebody. And the phenomenon that happened as a result of that was that if you find out about a mixed deity event and you come to the event and you start meeting people, you start to suddenly realize, like, there's this continuity of culture, even though everybody's totally different, totally unique and totally different. There's this continuity of culture where everybody's very present. Everybody's like very genuine. They all have something to bring to the table. And it's like, I've had people who've come to mixed deity events for the first time, and they have just been blown away at how they met so many cool people at the same time in the same space. And there wasn't even that many people there. you know and I realized, like, oh, that's because we never advertised, because there's literally no incentive to be here and there's no coercion to bring you. It's just somebody you know and trust had a good experience, so they told you, and then you had a good experience, so you told somebody who knows and trusts you, and you build that over years, and all of a sudden you just have just a fantastic experience, when you finally are able to sit down and connect with people.
Yeah. This is all great to hear. Listen, how do you measure any of this? How do you know when the work is going well and when it's going poorly? Do you have just written down like when we say how does it help? What is the right brain hard logic version of that?
It's engagement. We are promising to help get people connected to the things they need to push their own personal, creative, or social or economy, forward that they want to create, whatever they're trying to create. And there's no way of us knowing like what that is or where it will be or when it will reach fruition or anything. All we know is that people are either engaged and collaborating or they're not. And so that's really the only metric that we're looking at is are people coming out? Are they getting connected? Are they getting engaged? Is there a positive forward momentum from the week before or a decline from the week before? Are people understanding what's going on? Can they commute? Can they go to the website and easily get into the flow of happenings, or is it some big confusing, bumbleclot? And so engagement. Bottom line is engagement, and yeah. And we've been very deliberately kind of under the radar on that since we lost our church space, because building that out as a platform to where it's easy to get in and out of the ecosystem, and understanding what a platform design would even look like to be able to preserve what we were accomplishing before organically, but how do we bring that into a digital space without ruining it, And so
How do you feel like you've done just overall so far?
I'm honestly, I think that it's been great. I think it's been fantastic. And here's the thing. The Mixed idea came out in like 2009. And then it was a decade before I had a chance to actually try anything. And then for 2-3 years, it was basically experimenting to see like how could this even really work on a sustainable way. And just around the same time that we lost the space, I also kind of got the answers that I needed for how it would work. Like I understood the DNA, the secret sauce and the recipe of achieving this sort of vision. And over the last 2 years, they have been brutal. The last 2 years has been absolutely fucking brutal. But I guess where I take the most amount of pride is that despite the other opportunities that I could have definitely moved on to go do other things that would have, made more money or been more practical. And I had a couple of opportunities that I, arguably should have took. I just didn't, because all I could see was that was the death sentence to this campaign. And we still had so many members that stayed on for so long that I always just kind of looked at that and like, well, these people still believe in it, so I'm going to keep working on it. And now, like, breakthrough after breakthrough after breakthrough after breakthrough after breakthrough, and dealing with a system that deals with like the psychology of the human condition, but it also takes in the culture of that we've grown up with, but then it also takes into account, the way technology connects us and divides us. It takes into account the nature of the world that we're being born into right now. And it's just really like an organic, mechanized, organic community designed for scalability. And it's like, the more I work on it, the more I see how this is
This is very high.
The forces of the universe keep screaming at me, yes, you're on the right track, keep going. Yes, you're on the right track, keep going. Like, I can't even describe what it feels like, because I work on this day in, day in, day in, day for years. And it's like, am I anywhere? Like, you know, but it's like, yeah, actually. And what is like, there's no other way to get somewhere. Sometimes you just have to go through the process, and it's been a long and slow and painful process, but I cannot tell you how much I believe in this. It's like, this is the world that I always imagined could exist, and I see it in a microcosm, but I see it. And it's, you know, the unexpected thing that happened during this time at the church was I realized that what I thought was a small problem that applied to a small sector of, you know, creative people or whatnot was not. It was a problem that is impacting everyone, everywhere, in every walk of life, in every industry, just about. And once I realized that, I realized how much more important it was to find this solution. Like, it became something else, more than just my own ambition. It became like, this is a real thing that could really help real people who are really suffering.
Tell me about just what elements are needed that don't already exist.
Well, I think we're just about there. We've got about just about everything. The last ingredient.
Yeah, you were talking about a holy and divine connection for what has often just been, you know, putting things into spreadsheets. You know, a lot of this has been
well, you know,
software.
you meditate in a physical body that's got like blood cell counts and all kinds of mechanical things going on to allow your brain chemistry to exist so that you can have spiritual experiences, you know, or maybe it's the other way around. I don't know, but these things, they coexist, you know, they should coexist.
You're definitely wrong. You're definitely not wrong.
So, you know, the last piece of the puzzle really is, and I'm actually working on this now, is activating the platform, because it's mostly built out at this point, and then just injecting a little bit of capital into it, just to give it a kind of a runway, kind of lubricate the wheels of productivity, if you will, and then just do it, you know, and then just start doing things. I mean, we already are, but like really ramping it up in a way.
You've always been very confident. You don't talk about this a lot, but you've always been very confident about the ability to reactivate the community. You've always just been like, well, more important than just telling people we're reactivated.
Yeah.
Make sure that everything works to satisfaction.
That's true. And I have been for two reasons. One, because we have done partial reactivations before a couple of times where we just started running things again. And I think it's because we focused so much energy early on developing high quality relationships, that the recognition that people have to mixed deity overall, I mean, it's not perfect across the board, but mostly people have had really positive experiences, you know, with that community. And so when we are bringing it back, you know, that is a well, like that memory of, oh yeah, I had this very good experience. I want more of that. You know, people come back out, they really do. However, sometimes the experiences aren't so good because we are trying to do something that we don't actually have the resources for, and it falls flat right on its face. And that has happened a couple times too. And so I've realized that in order to protect that very high level of, you know, quality recognition of the mixed deity, you know, community, like we have to really deliver well. It was easy back in the day because most of all what we were doing was just opening the church. Like, with this great, big, huge, awesome space. Like, cool, we're just going to open the doors and let you come in and just have fun and be creative. And so that was pretty easy to deliver because all we had to do was open the doors, you know, and then just kind of keep an eye on things.
I wish I had, and that situation was so great. I wish I had been there even more. I mean, you guys have like just tons of stuff there happening every day.
Yeah, it was. We were like the go-to spot underground Atlanta for years.
Yeah,
you know, But so bringing that back, and in a way where we can embrace the technology, we can embrace the online space, we can embrace time, we can embrace both the support of for profit and businesses, and but also protect the community. And like when we fully come back, like what I've realized is that we don't have the convenience of this one big, container where we can just sort of throw everything. Now we're sort of out in the world, dealing with lots of other moving parts, and things just have to be way more organized. They just have to be way more organized and delivered with way more precision. And so that is, that is systems. That is systems. And so that's what we've been developing, and we're just about ready to release that, and I'm excited about it.
Tell me about this idea's relationship to money.
Well, there's a few relationships to money. The first relationship is that we want to be able to provide as much possible support and resources for the least amount of money possible, or no money. So it is philanthropic. That is one relationship as a entry point at the very least. Secondarily, though, we want to be able to facilitate a person's natural, proclivities for the things that inspire them, to give them a pathway to at least have the opportunity to turn that into an income stream for them. If they absolutely love doing this, that, or the other thing, they should have some sort of guidance or support or pathway to recognize that they could make that their own personal economy if they want. And so we want to help people grow their own personal economies. The issue that we deal with a society with all these shit jobs and all these coercive, corporations, is that in the end of the day, somebody has to go work for them. Unless you own your own economy. If we can get more people to be entrepreneurs, more people to own their own businesses, then there's fewer people available to fight over these shit jobs that they're doling out. And that's freedom. You don't have to clock in and sell your time day to day for whoever's paying you and then do whatever you're told to do, and that's just your life. No, like, you have a passion, you lived your passion, you've got some support and help to bring that passion into a revenue stream, and now you live your passion and that pays the bills. And maybe you don't become an international celebrity or a multi-billionaire, but like, you aren't beholden to anybody else. This is something I've had the privilege to, for 15 years, I have never had to report to a boss. I've changed what I've done for a living a dozen times, but the formula is there. Like, you can turn anything you want into a revenue stream if you know how to do that. And so helping people build their own personal economies so that they can have their own real freedom in life, that's the only pathway that I see where you can actually be free, is if you're not, beholden to somebody else's agenda.
How do you help people find their skills? In order to find this freedom, you have to have some kind of talent.
So not necessarily. It doesn't. Right. We assume that it's like, oh, I want to be a singer, I want to be a dancer, and like, yeah, there's a lot of that, and you can do that. But there's a second edge to this sword, is that you can also turn your passion into your prison if you're not careful. I've done that myself, where I worked really hard to be able to do something creatively for a living. And then once I was doing it for a living, I realized that now, like, I wasn't doing it for myself anymore. It wasn't a creative exploration anymore. And I had effectively built a business that became a new prison. And I was bastardizing the thing that I loved, and it was worse than just going to a job and then having free time afterwards. So the thing is that this is part of why the community needs to have all types of different people in it, because you may not have even know the thing that you really love to do. You may not even know it exists yet. You may have never experienced it yet. It might not be something as obvious as you think. It might be something way, 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 way more obscure or random that you just find a great amount of satisfaction in. And so that's where the exploring comes in. That's why we need a wildly diverse group of people coming to these events, because you should discover something new in any given conversation. Discover something like, oh, I didn't know about sound healing. What is that? Or I didn't know about this. What is that? And because the thing you're really passionate about, there's a good chance you've never even seen it before, or you don't even know what it is.
Keep going.
So that's the first part. That's why the social element is so important. Once you really do find something that you just enjoy doing all day, every day, you just love it, then the next question is, what are the different avenues to turning? The next question is, do you even want to turn that into your business? Because you may or may not want to. Maybe you just want to have that and be a thing that you do because you love it, and it's pure that way, and that's a choice to make. Or you could choose, I do want to turn this into my business. I do want this to be a revenue stream. And so then the formulas of business are very, very cut and dry. They're very straightforward. They're pretty much the same thing in every formula. A formula for business is, there is a thing or service or product, and somebody needs it or benefits for it and is willing to pay to be involved in that service or product or thing. And then you are the transporter. You're the person who brings it to them and gets paid. If you're an entertainer, there are people out there who are definitely looking for entertainment. They want to hear some music. They want to laugh at a joke. They want something. So then you're the person who brings that to them, right? If it's technology, then there's some invention that people didn't even know solves a problem, right? But you figured it out and you've got it, and so now you have to bring that to them, and that's it. It's just, there's a problem. You connect the solution to the problem, and that's what the businesses do. That's it. And you get
What
paid.
kind of support do you offer to members to help them take their passion and mechanically turn it into an income? Is it mentorship? Is it networking? Is it workshop? What are the actual tools that I'm getting as a member?
So in the beginning, we thought that we would give actual tools to people, like physical resources. We said, here's a venue space, here's a photo studio, here's a recording studio, here you go. Now you have the stuff you need to do things. And a lot of it fell flat. People would have access to a venue, but they didn't actually know how to produce an event properly. People had access to a photo studio, but they, had never learned the camera work, or didn't have a camera, or didn't know makeup or whatever, and didn't help them as much as I thought. The same thing with the recording studio. We were trying to understand, why is anybody using this free recording studio? And it turns out it's because recording studios are really personal these days. Like, if nobody knew how to use it, and if you know how to use a recording studio, odds are it's because you have one. So the people who knew how to use it didn't need it, and the people who needed it didn't know how to use it. So then it became like, okay, so what? We got to teach people. We got to get trainers in here to do this, and then it just turned into this. How is this sustainable at all? How are we possibly going to do this, and how are we going to do it for free? There's just no freaking way. But what I realized was that when we were watching these different events or projects or things, the ones that worked were the ones where there were more connections to more people. There was a little community nested in that thing that made it work. And so the big aha secret to the sauce for helping people is to realize, we have this fixed amount of resources. We have this venue and this studio and this photo studio, but the reality is that's fixed. Even if we were successful at giving it away and people made use of it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, there's still a finite amount, and then that's it. We don't have any more to give, and we're done. And I realized that the real resource that we need to be focusing on is actually the people themselves. Because every person, everything you could ever need, a venue, a studio, a recording studio, a photo studio, somebody has it. There's people out there with all of those things. The question is, do you know who they are? Can you connect to them? And why are they going to want to work with you or collaborate with you or donate the resource to you or to your campaign or want to be involved in your project? That's the question. And so it became about realizing that all the resources that we have already exist, but they're connected to all of the people that we aren't connecting to. And so the platform became about, oh, we need to know who people are, what they do, why they're doing it, how they're doing it, what they're connected to, and then connect people to those people. And then it becomes, again, it sort of circles back to this social dynamic, but with much more of an intentional social dynamic. And so,
How are you? Je vous too. All right.
hello.
Yeah.
Hello,
Yeah.
so it's an infinite proposition. There's always more people out there and there's always more resources. So if we can connect people to people, then we're also connecting people to resources.
Yeah.
And then,
I want to go ahead.
Yeah. And then there's just a little bit of a kind of a game plan for how to, because the problem is with humans is that they can become very predatory on each other very quickly and very easily if there's no oversight. I used to think it was just there were good people and there were bad people. Turns out, nope. Everybody's got a little of both, and depending on the circumstances, that will determine whether you end up doing good things or bad things. And so having a bit of oversight and accountability, and that's where the gaming aspect of it comes in. That's how we like, hey, you volunteered, you got involved, you did these things. We're gonna give you recognition for that, so that when new people come into the ecosystem, they can see who's who very easily, just by people's status in the quote unquote game. And it's designed to make it fun. But what it's really designed to do is give accountability, right? To where the people that, the second realization I had from when I realized that people were the key to solving everyone's problems is I also realized that people are also everyone's problems. So
Definitely.
Humans create just as many problems as they can solve. And so the question is, how do you create an ecosystem where there's a natural inclination to solve problems and like a natural disenfranchisement to the effort of creating one. And so in a silly way, gamification became the answer to that. I'm like, oh, well, if the goal of the game is to collaborate and you can only win by collaborating, then people will play the game for their own self-interest, but their self-interest is routed into a community interest that has a little bit of oversight and accountability, which you don't need very much, but a little bit. And then the human condition will do the rest,
I wanna put this under a new heading, which is, because when we talk about what's your role in the idea, now let's talk about that, the incubator and the game from that perspective. Just tell us about some of what you built, how you built it, how it works, and also talk about how fast a person can do it. I know that's not like something that you typically think about, but what's the time that if a person really wants to get through the process and complete something, how do they do it? And you may use that to introduce new ideas from there.
Yeah. So everything's broken into 3 phases. And I mean, everything lives in one of these 3 phases, and that is either the discovery phase, the development phase, or the delivery phase. If you were talking about a movie, you'd be talking about, pre-production, production, and post-production. If you're talking about an album, you'd be talking about, recording studio, mastering, and then distribution, right? It's the same 3 phases: discovery, development, and delivery. And the most important phase is the first one. It's the discovery, because you're not just discovering what you want to do or discovering who you're going to do it with, but you're discovering, how it could work. You're discovering the community. You're discovering who it's for. You're discovering you're discovering like what the road might look like to pull it off, and whether it's something you actually love so much you want to walk that road or not. Part of discovering is not just discovering what you want, but it's also discovering what you don't want. Like, you discover the people that you're going to collaborate with, discover the different, again, the first thing about wanting to know what you want to do is you have to actually discover these things. Before you can know that you would want to be a singer, you'd have to actually sing and discover what that feels like. If you wanted to be in anything, whatever it is you're trying to be, you have to know it exists before you can try to be it. So bringing in all kinds of new things and ideas and campaigns and success stories and platforms and ideas, just everything, like a melting pot of everything that is interesting to anyone at all. Like, we want to discover it. We want to discover everything. And so the first stage is really discovery. You need to discover the community you're involved with, discover the platform, how it works, discover if this is a pathway you want to walk or not, or how you would want to do it. It's really about discovery. And you're discovering there's a lot you really need to discover internally as well about your own self, as you're trying to build your future moving forward. So everything is about that exploration, and that's where the social events come in. That's where the discovery board, which you just went to, comes in. That's where resources and information and communication come in. We want to make sure you know about all the different resources in the community. We want to make sure you know about all the different communities in the community, and let's get you to these events. Let's get you meeting people. Let's get you networking, like discovery, and that's the first phase. At some point in that process, you're going to discover your truth. Like, this, I know what I want to do. I know what campaign I want to push for. I know what I want to be involved in. Some people want to be the head of things. Some people just want to be a smaller wheel on a bigger machine. Some people just want to be around it. Like, you discover like your engagement point, and then it becomes about development. And so development is where the game begins, really. And that's the whole board game, the process. This is where mentors come in. This is where we start meeting with you on a weekly basis, and we start talking about, all right, so here's the checklist. This is what we're going to do. Da, 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 da. And then it's just, we hold you accountable, but you're doing most of the work. As far as bringing yourself to wherever it is you need to be to achieve whatever it is you're trying to achieve. And it could be something very simple, or it could be something very complicated and long. And our goal is to just help you in the pursuit. If an idea reaches fruition, like, that is great, but our goal is just to make sure that you feel supported while you're chasing it, because every idea is different. There's a different price to pay for every, outcome, a different reward to be had, a different experience. And you may get halfway through an idea, a project, and realize that, what? I don't even want to do this. And like, okay, all right, well then, let's go back to the first phase again. Now we're back in discovery. Discover what you do want to do. Go try some other things. Go volunteer on other people's projects and be a smaller part of other things until something clicks and you really find a pocket that you enjoy,
All right. Well, if I'm a person,
for people who get through the development phase, people who get through the development phase, which means that you basically answered all the questions and found all the things and have compiled everything that you need to get to a delivery phase. Then when you get to the delivery phase, that's when the full resources of Mixed Deity really get behind you. That's like, you've done everything you need to do. You've followed through with everything. You've stuck it out every step of the way. And now it's time to deliver. And at that point, that's when Mixed Deity says, okay, they made it to the delivery phase. We are going to back them like 100%. We're going to get you everything you need. You need investors, you need venues, you need resources, blah, 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 whatever it's going to be, marketing, promo. Like, we are going to push this thing that you have discovered and developed over however much time it took you to get there. Now it's time to deliver. Okay, now you've got the support of this whole community and this whole ecosystem and infrastructure. And for our own self-interests, we want to be able to brag about you. We want to show social proof that what we're doing actually works. And so when you're ready to deliver, we are ready to deliver. And so those are the three phases, and that's the different way that we engage with them. But the reality is that life happens, and you have to actually get there. You know, we can bring what do they say? You can bring a horse to water, you can't make it drink. Like, this is your life. You know, this is your campaign, your passion. You're the one who has to actually show up and show out. But if you're that kind of person, we're going to recognize it and we're going to get your back.
This all seems good. What are the challenges that you got to overcome? I mean, like, you've got a lot of completed projects. You also have projects that aren't completed. What are the main differences you see between the two?
I think the key challenge is to find the precise formula that can inspire large organizations, entities, or people or companies with the resources we need to want to genuinely see how helping this community also helps their own interests, to where it's a symbiotic, finding the perfect recipe of symbiosis between the nonprofit and for-profit sector in the vein of this campaign is, I think, that's the key. Because these huge for-profit corporations, they can do anything. They're crazy powerful. The problem is that if what they're doing, the byproduct is to just trample on humanity and take a giant shit on everybody's head, then that's what they'll do. But in some cases, when you can demonstrate, actually, no, the best thing for your, corporate interests is to actually genuinely support people, help them, give them the resources they need, and make it a high value, non-divisive, element that you're bringing to the table, and then once that's happened, the next step is to keep it from being perverted, because that's another little profit tactic. But
have there been times that you felt like your work has been perverted, especially in the context of this project?
I'm used to having my ideas like copied or stolen. That doesn't really bother me. But I really don't like it when they're perverted, because that really just, it's like, I don't know, it cuts twice, I guess. But I can't think specifically of an idea of mine that had been taken and then like perverted on any meaningful scale. So me personally, no, but I've witnessed many other great institutions, campaigns, projects that started out with humanity's welfare in mind, and then people recognized that and got on board. They created a huge support system following, and then it got taken over by somebody else who had a completely different agenda. But now all these people are like locked in or taken in. So and that happens all the time. It's like corporate buyout. They do that. You could pretty much count on that, and it always frustrates me when I see it happen. Some startup company or some small group that just were like, man, we could really do this great thing, and then they do, and you find out about it and you get involved and you're like, oh, I love this is really cool, blah blah blah. And then eventually they get so big that they get bought out by some larger entity, and then that entity gradually starts gutting everything that was good about them and replacing it with cheaper, faster, low cost versions of itself. And it just, but they keep living off of the brand recognition, so people don't understand why the thing that used to be so great kind of sucks now. You've seen it many times, though. It happens all the time. So making sure that phenomenon doesn't happen is really important to me from the beginning.
You must have just something that you care about more from a mechanical perspective. Like, I know when you are up late at night and working on this, you're not thinking about the integrity of the project. You're thinking about volunteers? You're thinking about getting help running that
Well, no, I'm always thinking about the integrity of the project. If I don't have that at the forefront, then what do I have? Anybody can make a CRM or a click funnel or a volunteer page or a coordinator activate people. The integrity of the project is absolutely paramount. This is why I've taken very, very long putting it together, because I have to make sure that it's fundamentally designed in a way that automatically balances itself. It doesn't need to be policed. It doesn't need to be, have a million rules to try to protect it. Like, it organically polices itself by design, to protect the integrity.
Is that really your biggest challenge?
Yeah, because the thing is that human nature, we are ultimately opportunists on a base level. And if the opportunity is there to be a lesser, the less great version of yourself, unfortunately, a proportionately higher amount of humans are going to probably do that, especially in times of lack or in times where, the pinch is on or whatnot. And so the system has to be designed in a way to where when the pinch is on, like a real community, there's an instinct that we're all in this together. And so you don't suddenly turn on the other people around you and start, working against them, that you huddle up with them instead on an instinctual level, not even consciously. But the way the system survives an attack, essentially, is that it activates people to team up, activates people to collaborate, activates people to see each other as the solution to not only their own problems, but the problems that the group is facing. And that's imperative. That is the cornerstone of everything, because I've seen many nonprofits and campaigns and great ideas that came down the pike, and they were wonderful as long as that one person was there keeping an eye on it. But then once that one person became unlinked from the system, it just cannibalized itself. So
okay,
yeah.
So what does success look like for this project?
Success looks like that people understand how to use it. People genuinely find it helpful. That people are able to do things with their lives and their creativity and that they couldn't do before. And that it works and balances itself regardless of whether I'm involved or not. To where if I'm completely out of the picture, if I'm dead and gone, this system should keep respawning itself, and building and growing and staying connected to its ethical roots, and continuing to empower people to have their own economies and not have to be stuck in this perpetual economic battle for just survival all the goddamn time. It's ridiculous. We have more resources throughout the world than we could ever need individually, right? And the distribution of them is so insanely bent because of this commerce system that's so easy to manipulate, that we are in this lopsided culture of the haves and the have-nots on a level that's never been seen before, ever. Like, kings of all of history never touched the level of wealth discrepancy that we have nowadays. It's beyond comprehension. It really, truly is. And so if that's the system we live in, there has to be another system that gives us an opportunity to live in another way. And so that's the idea, is that this hopefully will continue on beyond me, and in maybe many different incarnations, I don't know, but it's a tool of empowerment so that the leverage of manipulative powers of money that just keep dictating all of our lives just lose their grip. They just don't have as much grip. People have options. They're like, you know what? I don't want to go work this shit job for shit pay. Instead, I think I'm going to go, launch this my own company, and I can do it because all I have to do is I have 5 friends who just did it and it worked fine, and they invited me in, so I'm going to give it a shot, and I'm here. If I can show up 8 hours or 10 hours or 12 hours a day, 5 or 6 or 7 days a week to give my time to somebody else that they are just exploiting all of my value and giving me, pennies on the dollar. Why can't I do that for my own economy? Why can't I do that for myself? And you can. The answer that you can't is just because you don't know how. So I guess the success looks like a very simple, easy to understand pipeline for any individual with motivation to realize their own economy, the guidance and the pathway to do that, holistically and organically at their own pace and for their own reasons. And then that success helps create a positive feedback loop so that now 2 more people can have the same experience.
That's cool. So I was going to ask, what does success look like for a member? But I feel like you gave sort of a comprehensive answer, and you touched on it pretty well. What are the steps that a person needs to take to engage themselves with this system, whether they're a member or a volunteer or a donor? Let's just walk through how do people engage with all of this?
Yeah. So it used to be a paid members only ecosystem. It was pretty simple. But now we have 2 member tiers that are free. There's a total of 5 tiers. The first 2 are free. It's very easy. You just go to the website and you click the join the community button. You got to register your email. That's the first member tier. Once your email is registered, then you can get information from the newsletter about things going on, and those are connecting points on how to get started in the community. And the second one is to do the check-in. So after you register, you can get access to the check-in page. And the check-in page is just getting the most basic information about you and why you're here and who you are and who you know and what you bring and what you're looking for and how you identify and how to connect with you. Just like really kind of the most basics so that we can get you into our network and understand how to connect with you, because everybody's different. Everybody needs to connect different for different reasons. So
does this involve the check-in page?
Yes. It's very simple. You just go to the website, you click join the community, check in. Once you get through the registration, that's your first membership. If you finish filling out the form, then that's your second membership, and now you're considered a community member. So the first 2 memberships are website member, which means you're on our email list and you can unlock some of the pages. And the next level is community member, which means you filled out the information about yourself and we can connect you to the community. And then after that, it's just really about kind of coming to events and getting involved. You can volunteer, it's just really about getting involved. And then you can be invited to join the club membership.
Everybody's been a part of a church before or knows what a church is. There's events. There's a big central event. Ours is in the middle of the week, but there's events happening all the time. There's subgroups. There's plenty of room for you to have both in-person connections, launch your ideas, or just enjoy Wi-Fi in person.
Yeah, so that was actually a good graphic there. You can come to the cafe and just be on location and hang out.
You don't have to do anything. Low energy.
Yeah, you can join the community, and that is either attending events or volunteering at events. Or you can go into the co-creator incubator, and that's where you volunteer for projects or you launch a project That's if you're very project oriented. So those are kind of the three ways.
No matter what your vibe is, there's something for you to do. If you would rather just watch Netflix, you can just drop by and watch Netflix. And we're also working on setting up like a live room where you can just punch in digitally and just be at home. And if you want, just if you like the ambient noise of this, then you can have that just be sort of the ambient noise for your life. Or if you're a person that you have a skill you want to learn, you want to really get out there and do some sort of semi-professional networking, we've got you covered. Or if you are even more serious about an idea and you want creative development, project management, and mentorship, wow, we can help you with that. So we know you're going to go up and down between these phases during your time as a member. I mean, it's not like anybody comes in and does all this stuff at all times, right?
It's the idea is that you find your own niche. Like we encourage you to explore everything, but at some point you'll find the parts of it that relate to you that you want to explore more. And that's the idea, is that everybody is going to be interested in it for different reasons. So we try to make sure there's a lot of different reasons and a lot of different points of connectivity. But after you finish the check-in and become a community member, then we do a free consultation with you, free call, free kind of a hello follow-up.
Right.
And the idea with that is that there's only so much we can learn from like a form on a website. You know what I mean? At some point, we want to be able to just chat with you, like a one-on-one conversation about you, your life, what you're doing, what you're about. And that can kind of help us give you some suggestions on how to make use of things. And because you're not going to want to be using everything. You're just going to be interested in the parts that, that might impact your life in a way that's meaningful. So a little conversation that helps us kind of zero that in a little bit.
Today is Tuesday, but you could be in a real conversation tomorrow, Thursday, Friday. Like, you blocked some time off for this kind of one-on-one.
I did, and actually, there's a landing page after you finish the check-in that takes you directly to setting up a phone call, and it's also free. And then if you are invited, you can get invited to join the club membership at either at an event or you can request an invite. And then, once you're invited, then actually, if you go back to that front desk page and scroll all the way to the bottom, this is where it becomes, this is where we kind of start getting into the sustainability of things. And so the club membership includes the drinking club. It includes other clubs like Creators Club and different things like that. But it also just kind of helps. It just kind of allows us to support you more because you're kind of making a little bit of a commitment, and also
who doesn't want an open bar access? Why you're saying a lot here, and less needs to be said. If you're watching this,
so go ahead and scroll down some more. If you go all the way to the bottom, there we go. Yeah,
so activated this. All right, great.
Yeah. There's the new breakdown. This is pretty recent. This is an update on the members. So the first membership is a free site member that gives you a newsletter, upcoming info, unlocks most of the web pages. The next membership is a community member that's also free. That gives you focused network connections, gets you featured on Takeover Tuesday. You get access to the discovery board, and you can nominate and invite your friends. And then the next level is if you get invited to join the club. And the club membership starts at $15, and then you can upgrade that all the way to $135. And these three tiers, the basic, pro, and apex, they're not a hierarchy of tiers. They're based more on what you're doing and how it relates to. So the basic tier is for people who are creatives on a budget. Like, you want to be in the club, you want to be participating, but your money's tight and you're kind of there more to just be included in what's happening, and you get certain discounts on things and the other perks that go along with it. But the assumption is that you're probably you're there to be part of the club community, right? The next one up is the pro, and the assumption there, that's your creative in the industry. So we assume that on some level you actually make money or are trying to make money in the creative industry in some way, maybe part-time, and that you want to use some of the mixed deity resources to give you a boost as a professional.
Get a better job, meet a better person,
better gigs. So this
careers.
The pro level includes like gig leads and things like that, where we try to connect you with actual work, and also bigger discounts, because the assumption is if you're trying to do this professionally, you're probably going to be booking things more often, and so a bigger discount's going to help you out there. And then the apex is for kind of creative business owners. This is for people who have very little time, and have don't have monetary limitations of any meaningful sort, and they essentially, we try to just like get, it's sort of like an express lane. We just try to make everything as accessible quickly and easily as possible. It's the as much access to everything. The assumption here is that you are already an established business, and time is money.
When you think about
and so
when you think about how smoothly today's show ran, in terms of the look, the feel, neither of us were on location. We cranked up some B-roll, we answered some basic questions, we let it rip. And it's basically because we have all of this infrastructure from the membership. In the sense of like, we didn't put as many hours into this as we might have had to if we did not have all of these tools on hand.
Yeah, I mean, again, the best way to solve a problem is just get people together, and that's a human thing. They solve problems. And so just sometimes all you gotta do is just throw the ingredients in the pot and see what happens. You end up with your best stew sometimes, so yeah, today we've never done a show like this. It's been interesting, a little different, but I think that there's some valuable moments in today's show for sure.
It definitely looked good. It felt good. You were pretty relaxed for this whole time.
Yeah.
Can we talk about? Are we officially doing the Shifalo next week?
Yes. Yeah. Shifalo is on next week for sure.
We talk about growth, and sometimes growth is just driven by the streets. People start saying, "What's with all this noise?" And you've got to go somewhere bigger, just because the fact of the matter is that's the case. So we definitely want to use the space well and have people come to it.
Yes, definitely. In fact, I think I'm going to use that as a segue to showing a little bit of the work in progress for the video that I've been working on for this for the new platform. So the thing about the Media Cafe as a venue is that it's hard for people to really recognize the flexibility of it. There's a lot of flexibility in the way that the space is crafted together, and so I've been trying to explain that to people, and I haven't been doing a very good job. So I made a video, and I think that I'm gonna be able to play it. Oh yeah, this is it right here. All right, so this is the Media Cafe. It's 40 to 30, 50 people, right? And that's just the basic cafe. That's the members lounge. That's the whole thing. But if you need more space, we can add on the dually. And so now we've got a total capacity of like 150 people or 1,000 square feet. We can add the Shifalo, which is what we have next week. Sometimes if Mike is feeling it and it's the right kind of event, we can add on the Mask Theater, right? So now all of a sudden we've got over 3,000 square feet, plus there's the outside space, right? The outside space basically doubles that. Plus there's the green space in the front. So if we're doing like a festival or whatnot in booths, plus there's the limo bus, the party bus, if we want to have a mobile VIP lounge. And of course, we also have the back lot, which could add another, a ton of stuff. Of course, most of the time, you're probably going to want to just use that to park cars. But if you rewind in the end of the day, it's the Media Cafe.
You did a great job with that. That looks good.
Thanks. I've been working on it, and it's just
If you were to put some really sick music behind that,
yeah,
like some really sick music.
really. I was imagining like polka music actually, but yeah, we could do something maybe a little more Dead Mouse or something.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. But okay. Are we wrapping?
I feel like I've more or less said what I feel like I need to say in life. How are you feeling about stuff?
This was first of all, I consider this a pretty successful show.
I do too. It was definitely not anything that was planned, but I also recognize some of the best stuff happens when it's not planned. So I try to support both sectors on that one.
Very little happened from a production value perspective. I mean, as far as the viewer knows, we could be in our underwear right now.
I am in my underwear right now. I'm just kidding. I don't.
But also, I had my hands on some of that B-roll, and we had a good structure, and so it just looked like, wow, something fun is happening.
You know what it reminded me of today? It reminded me of when I'm scrolling and I'm death scrolling and I see some video where a person's talking, and next to the video of them talking is another video of somebody like chopping vegetables or something.
Yeah.
And my brain is like trying to understand what the relationship is between these two things, and as a result I end up watching it. But really it's just like putting a different auditory story next to a different visual story, and then let the brain just get like stuck trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and you know, that's something, it took us very little to do. We did it.
Yeah, that was fun. That was good call on pulling up some of that footage. It was neat to have that visual aid to kind of talk over. It kind of brought me back too. Like we really did a lot in that old space.
Yep.
We really did.
All right, listen. Thanks for watching. You can engage. Just go to the website. If you haven't done check-in, go check in. If you haven't become an official member, this is a great time to renew your membership. And if you are a member, RSVP for next week's show. That's going to be at the Shifalo inside the big cafeteria. And we don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to have a great time.
I like it. Yep. And tonight, after party at the Media Cafe in Little 5 Points, that's going to be happening.
Who's after party?
I don't know. We're going to find out. It's probably going to be pretty laid back tonight, but you know, the Creative Drinking Club will be open. Bring a beverage. The mic will be on and hot. So bring yourself, and that's tonight. That's happening.
All right, cool. This show was great. It went pretty smoothly. It had just the right amount of bare minimum brain candy while allowing us to relax and talk about what's most important right now.
Well, I thought you did. I really appreciate you opening up a space for me to talk about some of this stuff, because I think about it a lot, but I don't get to explain what I'm doing very often. And now we got it captured, so that's cool.
Yep. All right, let's get out of here.
All right, we'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.